the less steps we had for someone to just buy and learn and be there, the more success we've had. And that was the key thing about LinkedIn is we were doing our pro product, which just drove to talk to somebody. There wasn't a download this and do this and be here and be here, then get emails for 2 weeks long. And then we try to do this. It was just like, do you need help? Boom. Here's a hard thing. Might offend some people on your podcast. I'd say to your listeners out there, they don't want to talk on the phone. They don't have confidence in what they're selling, period.
Hey Russ, how's it going, mate?
It is excellent. Thanks for having me today across the world.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So today we're interviewing a man called Russ Perry, who's the founder of a company called Design Pickle. Strange name, right? But in case you don't know who Design Pickle is, it is a company where you can get the graphic design done at a fraction of the cost of traditional designers. Yeah. You started this thing back in 2015, right? So 5 years ago?
That's correct. Yeah, we're on our 6th year now.
You're in your 6th year now, and you're an 8-figure business now. Is that right?
Yeah. We've been growing at quite a clip. Our model has really focused a lot on giving, access to creativity and design to a lot of businesses who may have not had that opportunity, but it's been quite a growth trajectory for sure.
So I got to start. Why Design Pickle? Like, how did you come up? Just because I'm just interested in that. This is probably not going to be that helpful to our, just to the audience right now. But I'm just really interested.
No, there's a really, really specific reason. It has nothing to do with pickles, although I'm a huge fan of pickles. The reason came actually because my previous business, I had a traditional creative agency, very brick and mortar, sales calls. We were always trying to position ourselves, and my company name was horrifically bad. For a branding and creative company, we had picked the worst name, which was a mashup of my partner's, like the first half of his other business's name, and then the first half of my old business's name, and we just mashed it together. And the name was full of consonants. We had a / in there, and you just never could understand what the name was. It was impossible to talk about and spell correctly. It was just horrible. So when I started it, I just wanted something that no one would forget, and like just was easy to remember and say it. And you're almost like, did you just say Design Pickle? Like, really? That's what you just said? And it's like, yeah, that's it. So thankfully the .com was available and I picked it, and there you go. That's how it became about.
Well, I think number one, congrats on finding a .com that was available. That's 2 actual words. I think that's something in itself. But on the other side of it, I do remember seeing you like in your first couple of years, because there was a guy in a pickle suit.
Oh, right? Yeah. Were you at, well, I was the pickle suit for a brief, narrow window of time, our very first year.
Okay.
And that was in 2015. If you've seen other people in pickle suits, actually I take that back. There were a few more pickle suit occasions that I was a part of, but it's been a rite of passage for our team to become the pickle. Like, it's a torch we hand off to different team members, but it works. And like, we get signups from trade shows we did 3 years ago that people still remember the pickle they were handed by the pickle guy.
Right. And so this is the thing, is I don't remember who was in the pickle suit, but I remember there was a pickle suit and there was a guy in a pickle suit, and there was something about marketing and design. And so maybe just start with that, right? Like, how important do you think that was in your initial success in, just gaining traction? Because that's what it's all about in the beginning, right?
Right. So when we first launched, we didn't really have a plan on our target audience. We didn't really know who was going to buy our service. And the whole business was an experiment, because really what we were trying to do is can we create a mathematical model of utilization of graphic design on an average basis and price it in such a way where we're still going to be able to pay our teams, pay ourselves, and make some money. The whole thing was an experiment. So marketing for me, I didn't know a single thing about Facebook advertising, online advertising. The one thing I did know was talking to people and getting in front of people and connecting with people. So we use that strategy both on and offline. The online one was as easy as going to events that we hoped people would buy our services, handing out pickles, and it was a radical success. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to be a grown man dressed as a pickle, but people give you credit and they want to talk. And there are a lot of pickle fans out there, like rabid pickle fans. So about half the conversations aren't related to your business, but you're just creating a connection anyway. And finally, like 5 minutes into talking about kosher pickles, they're like, wait, what do you even do? And you then can tell them. The online connection was in guest blogging and writing, and I did a lot of that initially. And it was borrowing authority from my network and people and colleagues, and just said, "Hey, I'm launching this business. Here's 10 different angles I feel like your audience might be helpful. Could I do that?" And that was our whole 6-month first strategy. We were profitable month one, and it probably was in the first year we started doing paid advertising, but that's how we got enough cash and confidence to then go after the paid advertising piece.
Yeah, right. And I think it's interesting because you weren't afraid to try something that was a bit scary for for pretty much everyone else in the world, right? Is to dress up as a pickle or to put yourself out there, I guess, in a way that gets attention. Yeah.
And we looked at ourselves too, as like, when was the last time you went to an event and a design company was there? Like, never. So it was also like, like if I go to a marketing conference, I'm going to talk to 30 people who are doing email automation or doing printing or doing whatever, but like true design, graphic design. So we just thought, wow, wouldn't it be novel if we actually talked to people in person and met them in real life and had and like put our brand out there as people? Because even though we don't consider them competitors, the marketplaces are very faceless.
Yep.
You kind of connect with individuals, but like there's no people behind the brand. It's just a transactional engine that's trying to run as big as it can. So we wanted to I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to tell my team's story. I wanted to put that personal brand out there. And we still do that today. I mean, we haven't been doing events, and we really haven't been doing events with COVID, but we still have that. Like you can talk and connect to somebody. Like you could call someone, yep. And that's like a weird thing often in online services.
And yeah, it definitely is. And I think what's interesting is that it gives people something to connect with, which is interesting, and it also is really it's really easy to create a brand around it, right? And I guess that's kind of one of the things which you've now created. And I think in this competitive world that we are in these days, it's been like this for now some time. I mean, you started at a very competitive time. It's become even more competitive in that the last 6 years. The brand is really important because otherwise it's just a website that you probably haven't heard of. Yeah. And so from a brand perspective, like this is something which is really hard to measure. How or what is the impact in terms of marketing, right? And so how do you measure now the brand side of things compared to the acquisition side of things, right? Because obviously having a brand impacts conversion rates, your cost per leads, like, you know what I mean? It impacts everything. Like, is there something there internally which you have that you say, well, if we're going to spend on brand, here's how we're going to measure it?
So here's the way we look at it. From day one, most of our advertising has been direct response, like buyer services. We have the luxury of doing that because we are a very easy to understand proposition. Like, hey, Alex, do you need graphic design help? You can answer yes or no without a demo, without me having to go into details. Like, you can self-assess a yes or no decision very easily. So direct response advertising in general works for things where you know if you have the need or not. Where marketing comes in is educating people about the need. helping them remember there's a need, teaching them about a need, and you foster that for a while, and then at some point you can hit them with the direct response. Branding for us is getting into the mindsets of people who have the need, but they're not real clear about like that we exist, or if they've discovered us, the brand is about credibility inside of choosing us in their selection pool, in their selection criteria.
Right.
So we think strong branding helps with conversion rates. It helps with your audience targeting and profiling, in the sense that they'll say literally, "Oh, I've seen you, I've heard about you, you were at that event, you were doing this, or I saw this video, you spoke about this." And so we can't ever tie it to direct CPA, but we know that it moves the things in the right way. And if you're creative about branding, like the pickle guy, it's totally disruptive and free to have these ideas with branding. And like, not enough companies take advantage of that. They think branding is about the polished, pixel perfect, the typography is like, this is kerning is exact, and the colors match. And, no, it's like, no, just go hand out pickles for 10 hours and see what happens. That's branding for you.
You started off kind of like as a direct response company. That's how we started off as well. So I completely understand that. And you at the same time were focusing on the brand side of things. Yeah. Have you changed that approach as you've become a larger company? And so nowadays there's a lot more revenue. There's a lot more, the company's a lot larger. Like, is it still a direct response company, or is there like a larger investment now, like in the marketing side of things, as what you just said before?
Yeah, as we've grown, really, we just have had the luxury to be strategic about all of those things. So as a smaller company, it was very opportunistic. Okay, here we can now go do this. Let's do that. Oh, we have a branding. Russ, you can be on podcast, or we're going to do some crazy antic video. Let's do that. Now I actually can like pay people to think about things, and we have strategies for that, and we're implementing it. But I wouldn't say one is leading the other. They're all interrelated. And again, coming back to our value proposition, it's still very disruptive. The majority of our buyers have never heard of us. And we have to ensure that our brand connects with them on an emotional level, really, because when you're buying a service, even if it's a software, productized service, all the things we call ourselves, the tech-enabled service is the cool one we've been using. There's trust involved. Like, okay, I gotta trust. I'm ultimately working with a person. So I gotta trust the person, and we try to bridge that trust gap, or at least get people closer to it with the branding. But the direct response stuff, that always will work, because people are not very good at making decisions sometimes. So we have to haunt them for 6 months with retargeting. And then they'll finally choose to decide to use us when their pain points have gotten so extreme.
So what do you measure from the brand side of things? Because I think on the direct response side of things, that's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, totally
But from
linear.
Right. But from the brand side of things, like you said, they don't lead each other. They're kind of interrelated, right? But you're spending money. You are spending money on that versus something else. How do you know I should keep spending money on this thing? Because this is the thing that we've been so many conversations about, right? Cool. Well, this impacts that. We've got to get out there. We've got to do campaigns. We've got to go on podcasts. We do all these things. That costs. How do you assess that success?
Well, we don't jeopardize our direct drivers of growth through advertising we know works. So that's first and foremost. If there's an organization looking to do a big fancy branding project, but they're going to have to cut back on their funnels and their paid acquisition, the things that they know is working, never choose the branding project ever, because you're gonna starve yourself for what is hopefully going to work and take it away from something which you know is working. So that's my first thing. Branding at a macro scale is a luxury you can only have once your business is running and operating. Branding on a micro scale is what you do when you make sure the visuals are there, you make sure the things are in order, but it's very practical in nature. When you get onto the offense of branding, it's because you can, whether you have the right team members or budget, because it's very hard to track. And you kind of have to be okay with that money going out into the world and that energy going out into the world. And like I love branding, but like when my branding side of the business, like my PR team and my creative team and the people are doing their thing, I want to be like, what's the ROI? Give me the ROI. Even though I am a branding
Because you're a hardcore marketer.
Yeah, dude. But I know at the end of the day, it's an investment in the longer term, and it works for our clients. And there's a lot of other things you can measure, like customer retention and loyalty and affinity. You can measure things like engagement rates on content you're putting out. You can measure things like who shows up to your webinar on something unrelated to sales. These are actual measurables related to brand. If you have a strong brand, people are going to show up when you want to talk about whatever, because they care about your company and they want to feel connected to that. So there are those metrics, but as it pertains to sales, you really just have to kind of try to piece it together. And the more precise you are with your branding efforts, the better you can see if there's causality and correlation. A great example is if you are looking to advertise I think like outdoor advertising is branding. So if I'm going to do non-traditional outdoor advertising and I do it in a way where I know XYZ clients are supposed to see it and engage with it and be involved with it, then do I see that happen in a trailing 90 days or 120 days or whatever? So when your branding becomes very focused and very precise, I'm going to do a direct mail branding thing to, pediatric surgeons who only focus on children. Like, that's a random thing. I don't know what.
Right.
For example,
yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Then you could see. So that's the trade-off. But I do think around engagement, show rate, open rate, and all of that, there are some pretty practical things to measure. But that's more on your, it's hard to track that into just direct sales, and it's always has been.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's fantastic, because I was going to ask you actually how you measure it, and then you just answered it. So you read my mind, which is great. Can you talk about how your marketing has changed in the last 2 years versus the first 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah. Here's easy. You don't see me anymore inside of it. So we shifted from a CEO brand-driven type of company. Here's what Russ is doing. Here's my story. Let me write a blog post every week on our journey to $1 million. I did that too. Like all the startup CEOs do it.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, I realized that the company is the brand, and my team members are the brand, and our clients are the brand, and our designers are the brand. And so over the last 2 years, I pulled off. I tinkered around with personal branding. I had a weird, kind of phase. We call it my black phase. That I just wouldn't deny these things, but ultimately, the Design Pickle brand was what we wanted to build. And that's actually been part of my strategy this year, even though I'm real behind the ball. COVID pushed back my own personal inputs in that, where my efforts inside of the branding are to support the CEO story inside the wrapper of Design Pickle, but not be the guy on the ads, not be the person, at the forefront of it all. I mean, I love doing podcasts, I love telling stories like this, but go back 3 years that I was like in the ads, I was doing stuff, I was talking to people, I was very much doing it all. And I think that's key for the longevity of a company. Because if we wanted to exit tomorrow and I'm wrapped up in it, I look at a brand like ClickFunnels, and I know this is something that they're working on. Russell Brunson is so much wrapped into the brand of ClickFunnels. Extracting him out of it is going to take a long time. It's totally possible. Right. But if I'm going to buy a company or there's something there, personally, I don't want to be on the hook for a lifetime of branding for a company that I don't own anymore.
Yeah. I got it. and we'll come back to how you actually did that, because we're going to be talking about the people side of things soon, because that's a people thing as well, and actually having the right people on the team that can actually help you execute on that, right? But just quickly, I saw a case study on LinkedIn about your success in acquiring a bunch of revenue from LinkedIn ads. Yeah. And if I'm correct, they estimated it's 1.8 or so million dollars in revenue. Like if you have kind of like had calculated it across the year. This is from LinkedIn ads. Now, I just asked this question only because the whole world talks about Facebook ads, Instagram ads, search ads, display ads, but LinkedIn ads is like this kind of mystery area where apparently it's too expensive, or you don't get conversions, or it's for the bigger brands only, and yet you made it work.
Right.
How did you make it work?
It was super simple. We did direct response advertising, and we did messaging that our target audience understood in one line. Hire a part-time designer for $12,000 a year. Save 30, and I don't know the exact copy, but this is an example, like save $30,000 on your graphic design fees. These were lines that our audience and our right buyer would resonate with. If you think about it, someone who's never bought graphic design, they're gonna gloss over. Someone who thinks $12,000 is a lot of money, it's gonna gloss over. So there's just tons of pieces to this that just hit it exactly. We're very specific in our copywriting with plain text ads mainly, to then get someone into our pipeline and our funnel. We also got a lot of haters on these ads because we have designers like, I'm working on this, don't blah, 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 do this, which is based on engagement ratings, which actually help the ads perform better. But yeah, it was, again, being very clear with our messaging on a thing that only that audience of our buyer would resonate with.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And, just on that point as well, just because we've seen success with LinkedIn ads as well, and very specifically around the text ads. And I say this now, and I know all of our competitors are going to go out and start to buy a bunch of text ads because that's what happens. But whatever, this is a podcast to share. Yeah. That seems to be the undiscovered treasure right now. Probably after this podcast, will become less discovered. It will become a lot more discovered, but really interesting. But it does bring up the point of, you really understand your target market, right? The personas which you're trying to go after. And how many have you got, like personas that you're trying to target, like at any one time?
Roughly 4 or 5. And they really are targeting the different types of buyers of creativity. So anywhere from an entrepreneur who's buying it to a CMO who's buying it for their organization. And we don't necessarily hone in on the industry specifics, simply because I could work with any industry. It's all about how they're purchasing creativity, and if they're purchasing creativity. Because if I tell the Etsy mom who's making kitten bibs, like, hey, pay $500 a month for design, she's gonna have a heart attack because she's never bought it. So we have to make sure we're communicating it correctly.
And so then I think that probably would have been a contributor to your LinkedIn success, right? Because I think I saw in the case study as well that it talked about that your ability to test, to change audiences just like that, because it's all in the segmentation, right? And so it's probably the one channel where you can actually target ads that way. Is that what you found as well?
Well, so yes. However, here's actually a completely different answer to your question. Not even the question you answered me. It was actually, in all of our history of advertising, and this goes against so many, like, HubSpot, like for 100 years that HubSpot's been around. I know it's only like less than 10 or whatever, but they talk about, the funnel, the flywheel, the this, the that, the this, the this, the that. Literally, the less steps we have for someone to just buy and learn and be there, the more success we've had. And that was the key thing about LinkedIn is we were doing our pro product, which just drove to talk to somebody. There wasn't a download this and do this and be here, and then get emails for 2 weeks long. And then we try to do this. It was just like, do you need help? Boom. So like, that's what we were doing on LinkedIn. We do it on other platforms too. I don't think that's unique to LinkedIn, but that ends up, I think, was a large reason to success. Is so much you see the ads on LinkedIn. It's like download the ultimate 5-step guide to understanding the ROI on realtor mortgage hacks, and you're like,
yeah,
whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
there's a balance, and I get there's different funnel pieces of like nurturing and find it, but I do think the people on LinkedIn, especially if we want to go there, they want solutions for problems today. Like if they're going to talk and connect, they're there for a reason. That's why we found social advertising to be better for the lead nurturing and awareness pieces, whereas LinkedIn was working really well with the direct, like, let's talk shop.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like this is something which I speak about with people all the time about, like efficiency versus effectiveness, right? Like you can be super efficient and not have to talk to anybody ever, right? But you can increase your conversion rate 10 times by jumping on the phone, right? By just getting a form and just calling. And it's like, because you're so scared to jump on a call, we're going to make these massive funnels and 68-step processes when one step, one call with a follow-up or not, right? Like, and that's like performs way better, you know? And so it's an interesting conversation, because I think, especially for marketers, we're like obsessed with metrics and funnels and steps and not talking to anyone ever, right? But it's like, it's actually helpful talking. Isn't that what you'd find as well?
Here's a hard thing. Might offend some people on your podcast. I'd say to your listeners out there, they don't want to talk on the phone. They don't have confidence in what they're selling, period. You should be able to talk to anybody and be pumped about it. And if you don't do that, it's just because you're not sure.
Yeah. That's a great, that's a great point. And that's where sales and marketing have to talk, right? Like you guys are going to talk, and you guys have to just get out there and speak to people. And I think for marketers, this is the thing I found just for myself, because at first I didn't want to jump on the phone, especially because I have a stutter and it was a whole thing. And I was like, I just don't want to ever talk to anyone ever. But the more I spoke to people, the better my marketing became, because I understood them better. I just understood them better. And because I understood them better, the messages were simpler. I didn't have to do so many steps to convert somebody, right? Because I just got it.
And you could disqualify faster too, which is also helpful. You know, it's just like they're not a fit. Wow, I just had 10 conversations that wasn't a fit. There's something I need to change in the steps before this, because I'm like, you won't know that if someone's just opening an email. Like you won't know you're getting thousands of people that are the wrong fit of all they're doing is opening, but you can know that in 5 conversations or 1 conversation immediately.
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump just quickly to the people side of things, right? Because, you know, to have a company of your size, it's all about the people now, right? And you mentioned it before about, you know, you moved the marketing away from just being about you. It's about the brand. It's about the team, right? Now, there's so much to talk about on the people side of things. So I'll try and keep it focused, but let's see how it goes. Yeah. What's been your approach to recruiting people that are awesome? Let's say, not the bad challenges that we've all had to have, but you know, what's been your approach to finding the good people?
So there's 3 characteristics we look for, aside from the prerequisite of they have experience in what we're looking for. So if you're creative, you need to have creative experience. If you're a web marketer, we need to have, you know, digital marketing experience. Right. It's they've worked hard in their life. Like there's some crazy hard job they've had, something they've done, whether it's volunteer projects, you know, religious ministries are always a good sign. Things that just are uncommonly, or just like the world's worst job they did for a year trying to figure it out. Just this grit and perseverance is super important. And we love people who have that. And myself and everyone has those stories that work here. The other is we screen with our core values. So we have 5 core values: friendly, smart working, truth, service, and tenacity. These core values are our screening process to even talk then to a hiring manager. So you won't even, so with someone who needs to hire, you won't even ever meet them if you don't pass the core values filter from our hiring team. And that's been extremely powerful to vet. And then we just need some evidence of your success in prior roles. Like show us. Don't just tell us, show us what you've done, and whether that's sample work or like, we're not going to talk to referrals because those are always going to be awesome, but like actually show us the work, show us the product. And in a couple of occasions, if we can't find it, but we really love the people, they've passed those 2 tests, we'll do a paid engagement as a contractor, as a test project to find them. But we use that process from everyone from the most entry level to the most senior level at the company and everywhere in between. And it's worked really well.
That's awesome. And I'm totally going to take some of those parts of it. I like the one about grit. That's something that yeah, like I totally can see that as well. And I've never really known a way to tell before, except when you said, tell us your hardest job. And they're never going to put that on their CV. They're never, because it's like probably the thing that they don't want to, that is not really related to marketing maybe, right? And so now all of a sudden, or to whatever's being hired for. So is that, that's like an interview question, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. I want to know yours. Mine's super quick. I did telemarketing for 2 weeks in a trailer, a mobile trailer, selling carpet cleaning services, and everyone in the trailer was allowed to smoke cigarettes. It was the worst job. 100% commission job. That was the worst job I ever had.
I've had plenty. I think I'll name 2. So back when I was like 18, 19 or whatever, or maybe it was 20 or something like that, I was a removalist. And it was a pay by hour, but there was unlimited hours. So I would work 17 hours a day for 7 days a week for and I did that for 2 years. And then I was like, I had a sore back and I was like 19 or 20. I was like, wow, I got to get out of this thing. Cause I didn't do so well at school. Like, not that I wasn't capable, but I just didn't want to. And then another job after that was, and this is back when my stutter was like really, really bad. I did a telemarketing job on commission only for like, it was just, I'm just sitting there going, why? What the hell am I doing? But you know, that was, and it was hard. It was like, it was really grueling stuff.
Could they smoke?
No, they couldn't smoke. This was, no, that's crazy stuff. But that's really good. How fast in the interview are you asking that question? Is that like kind of the first, second, third questions, you know, like, because like they're not going to be able to find it from the CVs, right?
Right. So the core values is right up front. And we actually have a pretty, you know, like 4 or 5 questions that are open response writing questions. And one of those is, hey, based on our company core values, which, I'm paraphrasing, which one resonates with you and why? Tell the story. We don't tell them what the core values are. They have to go to our site. They have to find them. They have to do some research and do a little legwork, and then they talk about them. And you'll learn a lot. I mean, I think one of the most powerful things, I've read so many business books, especially on hiring, and open-ended writing questions are the best way to screen volume of candidates. It'll immediately disqualify so many folks who don't even put the effort into that ask. So then the job one is on the fly, like on the spot, because we want that answer that's like, oh, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you the story, like what I did, but you know, we haven't gotten anything too obscene yet, but like I'm sure that'll happen eventually.
Yeah, but that's a super important point, that like the application form to apply for the job has an open-ended question which will filter people out. And you know, like for you, it's about values, but it could be anything, right? It's just something that puts that there, because that's how you scan to get to the next part where you want to find about kind of the grit and then performance and stuff, right?
Exactly. And a few more, you know, what we ask them personal questions within the realm of legality, like what are hobbies or interests you have? Like, talk to us about, you know, we give them some hypothetical Design Pickle situations, regardless of the role. Hey, I'm a Design Pickle client and I need this. Can you help me? And it forces them to like we give them a few hints, like here's our knowledge base, here's some things, but they're like, okay, if I really want this job, I'm gonna actually have to spend some time, do some research, think of some things, and that will eliminate 80% of our applications. And then we have the 20% that we'll actually move forward with.
Have you ever had the challenge where there weren't enough people that filled out that first stage, where like there weren't enough people that completed the application the right way, but you needed people for your growth? And you like, have you ever had that?
So we won't hire you at all unless they're like, even if we get one person that fills the first stage, we could potentially hire you. And that has happened. I will say, and as we've matured as a business, the pressure of hiring is there, but we could always wait longer if needed. So earlier years, I do think we made a couple hiring decisions that I would have changed because we're like, let's just hire him. We need the help. And today we won't do that. Even if we have, a family or a friend or someone we know really, really, really well, we're like, this is so good for you. Go apply for this position. Which is actually happening right now. Someone, a couple of us know, we're like, dude, go apply for this position. We're still going to make sure we get a bunch of other candidates.
Yeah.
And we'll filter it. And then if the person still rises to the top, great. If not, then we did our job well on the hiring part.
And I think this is a fantastic point now for, I guess, anyone who is listening, because right now it's a recruiter's market, but there's so many applications that your challenge is not going to be finding the people. It's going to be filtering through hundreds, maybe thousands of applications, especially like if the role is potentially something that people can do from home, which everyone kind of has to do these days, right? So I think this is a really good process right now. And I'm certainly going to take a few of these parts and kind of just adjust some of that, because I mean, like I have to go through a bunch of applications. I got like 2,000 applications. I'm like, well, I don't even know where to start from, but this is really good. Let's jump quickly. From a marketing team perspective, who would you say are the roles which are critical to have in-house? So these, and maybe it's like in the beginning, these were the first 2-3 hires which are critical. And then as it expanded, then we added these on.
Well, I mean, without a doubt, you need a strong project manager in-house. Even if you are super small and you're hiring agencies, you're hiring consultants to augment your workforce, you still need someone that's not the CEO, that's not the founder, that's managing all of that, and that's their job. As you grow, eventually that becomes a marketing manager, marketing director type role, but you have to have that. And anytime, I remember when I was doing a lot of the management and I was doing 10 other things, and these relationships would go sour or the projects would go sour because I wasn't committing enough time to it. So that needs to be what someone wakes up every day and to do, is to know and own those relationships. As we've grown, I do feel like when it comes to paid acquisition, you need someone in-house who can coordinate and understand that really well. And we have a blend of outsourced services that we use and agencies that we use and in-house teams, and it works really well. And when I started paid acquisition, I went and took Facebook advertising courses myself so that I could know, like literally in an old school 2015 ads manager, trying to figure everything out and watching on Udemy and how to do this and how to do that. But I did it so that I could manage it and I can hire people around it. So you really want someone in-house that can talk shop and knows these things. That's a trust piece. The other thing, you definitely don't need creativity in-house. You can always just go to Design Pickle to get that.
I love it.
But copywriting, I feel like copywriting, I want to find a great contractor system with that, but man, I think copywriting and writing has to also be done in-house. That to me is something, that's your voice and your brand. And if you don't have copywriting in-house, you're going to be really struggling to get things done on time and to your specifications.
And on that point as well, like I think that's been the hardest thing, I think, over the years for me personally anyway, is finding people that can write on brand, because then always you, me, like, you know, like people that are senior, that have been there, especially founders, they care about what it says and how it sounds and stuff like that. So you're always going to be pulled back in unless you got someone you're like, yeah, she's amazing. You know, she can do the copy. I trust her. She's probably better than me because she's got more time. She can think about it. She can do more stuff behind it. It's less like quick and it's more thought out.
And I will say too, and I'll say this with the disclaimer that we've yet to do this ourselves, but the copywriting needs to be someone's only job. And right now, most companies, myself included, copywriting is like 5 people's jobs, and or 5 people have that job. And so like, like we're there, we're so close to getting there. And I don't think everyone can have this opportunity, but I sort of wish I would have done it 5 years ago. Like I would have really saved myself a lot of late nights and editing and writing and a ton of other stuff if I had done this sooner.
And if you think of all the places where you need to write, it's websites, it's emails, it's social media, text posts, it's everywhere, right? Yeah. Thanks for answering that question. That's a really interesting one. Let's jump quickly. How do you approach competition? What's your thoughts around competition? How much do you spend looking at competition, and like, what do you do when people copy you? Like, how do you approach it?
So old school Russ Perry would lose his shit every time a copycat competitor would come up. And because they would do dumb things like literally copy our website and forget to change the mail to links. And so all of their inquiries would come to us, or just totally steal our work and post our work on their websites, and or name themselves like sneaky URLs. That's like, so like if you misspelled Design Pickle, it would go to this one. Like so many things I've seen over the years. Then we just said, you know what? Those aren't our competitors. Truthfully, our competitors are in-house employees and agencies. That's who we compete with, because we're going after the people who are spending dollars there, and that's a much larger pie. And so today we just let all our copycats and competitors cannibalize each other's AdWords and do all the things that they do and compete at the bottom. And there's a couple brands doing our model that I really respect that have done it with grace, and they've taken their own approach. There's actually an Australian brand, they're pivoting. I won't name them because I don't want to plug them. But
don't mention them. They're not on this podcast right now.
Yeah, but they're great, and the company that they built, they did it really well, and they did it with a lot of integrity. And so those are the people I want to talk shop and connect with, and I don't get stressed about it because they are innovating, and the market share of who's not using these services infinitely greater than the market share of who is. So, so today, you know, we keep in mind that I'm looking at who's selling creativity and how do we do it in a more compelling way, and who's buying creativity and how do we do it in a more compelling way. And plus, we're so far, like, anytime a competitor pops up with a flat rate model doing what we're doing, we just sort of giggle because they don't even know like what our 10-year plan is. And it's like, well, that's nice. Like, have fun. I mean, it'll be a nice 6-figure revenue stream, maybe 7-figure revenue stream, and they'll do good. But, you know, like, it's cute.
Yeah, no, I got it. And I think this is the part, because it's happened to us as well, especially because, you know, we educate the market, you know, so we were established back in 2006. So a lot of our competitors, I was teaching back when they were teenagers, you know, and so like, it's really interesting. But I realized that the brand is hard to copy. You can't just copy the brand. You can copy the words, you can copy the creative, you can copy what we do, but you can't copy our positioning in the minds of our audience, you know? And I think that's what you guys have, right? Is like Design Pickle now. It's not like, that's a weird name. It's like, that's Design Pickle. Now, I'm sure it's out there, so that's a weird name, and it's really interesting because it stands out, but it's hard to compete on brand when they don't have a brand yet, you know? I think that's something that's easy to forget, you know? Especially as a direct response marketer who just wants leads, you know what I mean, in sales.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning about branding. That's your ultimate secret weapon. It's our ultimate secret weapon. And look, it doesn't take rocket science to put ads online. It doesn't take rocket science to procure designers and markets and manage a relationship and make a margin on it. But that's not what the business really is. The business is about the experience, the technology, the results, the things that we do. And I love it when people leave and use a competitor and come back and they're like, that was horrible. Like, sorry, you know.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I love it when people come from a marketplace and they say, man, I don't want to use that anymore. I love it when clients cancel Design Pickle because they're now hiring their full-time designer, that because their business has grown and they really don't need us anymore. That's what I love to see. And that's what I think is a healthy marketplace. But God forbid, if someone copies our website one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
No, I got it. And like, I think somebody copied our website and they did it a little bit better. So I went to our creative and was like, all right, step it up now. And we just changed everything really quickly, right? Because it's like, because I'm that competitive. I'm that competitive as well. But like, it's the same thing as well, kind of, you know, with us, right? Like in the past, like it's always like, oh, was the agency or in-house? Well, it's in-house if you can afford it. In-house is always going to be better, but you need a bunch of people, not one person in-house. There's a few people in-house. There's always space for agencies, but they have their place, right? And like, you shouldn't be upset if someone's saying, hey, I'm going to hire somebody now because that's what I prefer, because that's kind of makes sense. And if it's the same service and they can get it in-house, go for it, right? Just understand that you need a few people, not just one person. But, you know,
Absolutely.
like we used to be like that, like, oh my God, it's going to like it's going to go in-house. It's like, well, if you can afford an in-house team that will handle your growth, yeah, hell yeah. That's what all the fastest companies have, but it's not the cheapest, right? And so, you know, so we kind of understand that, you know, we're that stepping stone between having the, you know, basically the full in-house team and just kind of having kind of like individuals that can handle your parts. But just quickly then, personal side of things, how do you balance family and business life?
Well, I actually had a podcast for 2 years talking about this every week. I don't do it anymore. It's called Good to Be Home. And that was actually our tagline. How do you balance business and life?
Okay.
But you know what? I think the key is in including your life into your business. I integrate my life into my business. My kids come to the office, so I've worked with my wife. She consults for the company. Everyone is really into pickles in my house, and
from when they're children, they're like, first food is a pickle.
brainwash for it. But you know, and I don't think like this isn't a new concept anymore. I think 10 years ago people were really innovative by it, but like there's not really a line anymore. And man, think about I mean, I'm at my home, my kids are waiting for me, like looks like you may be at your house. I don't know. Like it's just like this is how
we're all at
things
home
are.
here too now as well. Yeah.
So man, there is no line between that anymore. But I like to ensure that it's part of it. And like truly integrated, and I encourage that part inside of our company. Like we have our very first Design Pickle baby on the way. A woman at we've had 2 team members have kids, but it was the guys and their wives had kids. We have our first female employee having a baby. I feel like this is my baby too. I feel sort of like I'm having my first child all over again. So that's the vibe we have, and I think that allows us to recruit really well. It also really allows us to enjoy it.
So for people, and this is a challenge that a lot of people that haven't worked from home before are starting to face. Yeah, for people that are now having to work from home and they're trying to figure out that balance and they've never had to do this before. Are there any like tips or anything which you can give that are kind of like actionable, like on how to stop work and start, and you know what I mean?
Can I plug a cool thing I created? A little tiny tip. So I'm not doing much online. I'm not on social, but if you go to russperry.co and opt into my list, I have a daily planner that I've created this for myself, and I use it every day. I print it out every day, and I'm a time blocking maniac, and I just am super precise with what I'm going to do. It's basically a combo between a calendar and a checklist. I just mashed it up. So that's my lead opt-in. Don't worry, I'm not doing any retargeting advertising. I rarely email ever. So if you could get a copy of that's my tip. I do this every morning. I know exactly where I'm going to be, what I'm going to do, and I'm clear on that plan. And I wouldn't be able to work from home. I wouldn't be able to work, period, if I wasn't relentless about how I manage my time.
That's great. And I have downloaded it. I opted in and I got it, and it's great. It's great.
Did you get the second version, the new version?
Yeah, well, I opted it in like this week, because I was just kind of having a look at all your stuff. I was just going into everything, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, because I love productivity hacks. I love them. So I got it over. So I got it. A couple of quick fire questions, right? If you had to choose just one channel or tactic to drive success in terms of marketing, what would it be?
So which channel would I pick? Is that the question?
Yeah. So if you just had to pick one channel for growth, what would it be, or tactic?
I know this is not one we can do right now, but live events.
Okay. I want to ask why, but they're quick fire questions. Cool. So what book has had the biggest impact on your success?
Thou Shalt Prosper, which is a finance book by a Jewish rabbi, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and it's all about money mindset.
Great. What's your number one piece of advice for hiring awesome people?
Hire with your culture and your values first.
How do you relax after a crazy day in the office or home office? How do you relax?
I haven't been doing this for probably 10 years, and then COVID made me do it. It's playing Diablo 3. I've been playing Diablo 3 after like a 10-year hiatus. So.
You're old school. Me too.
Yeah.
What's the best piece? What's the best business advice that you have ever received? The best business advice that you've ever received?
Know your numbers. If you can't be comfortable with the P&L and you don't get excited about modeling finances and you don't want to make profits, then don't be in business.
That's a great one. And what do you do for fun? And this is a question I ask everybody I interview too, by the way, but I just want to know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would say travel. However, that's been a pause. It's why I built a global company, so I can have a reason to expense trips all around the globe. Right now, it's truthfully doing really fun things with the kids, with trampoline. We're going camping, just loving that life right now. And I'm not just BSing, like it really has been, it's been good. My having an online business has been really conducive for that.
Russ, thanks so much for coming on the podcast, man. This has been a really great chat. Check it out. The site is called designpickle.com. Yeah, check it out. Subscribe, and also check out russperry.co. Been really awesome to have you on the podcast. And we'll have all the links in the show notes. And mate, have fun with your kids, and we'll talk soon, man.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
See you, mate. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Manifesto podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please head on over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. For more episodes, please visit growthmanifesto.com.